Most people imagine the brown bear as a symbol of raw, untamable power, a creature that commands rivers, that shakes mountains with its roar, that makes the forest itself go quiet. They are wrong. What the brown bear actually is hungry, almost always. It is tired, almost always. It is one bad season, one failed salmon run, one harsh winter away from a death so slow it is barely distinguishable from starvation. The brown bear does not rule the wilderness. It simply endures it at enormous, punishing cost. Here is the truth no documentary poster ever shows you. A brown bear must consume up to 20,000 calories a day in the weeks before winter, not because it is greedy, because if it fails, it will not wake up in spring. It will simply stop somewhere in the dark, beneath meters of snow, its heartbeat fading to nothing, its cubs beside it, cold and still. This is the life of the brown bear. Not a throne, a sentence. A brown bear cub is born in January, inside a den carved into frozen earth, in the absolute darkness of a hibernating winter. It enters a world it cannot yet see, hear, or comprehend. It weighs barely 500 grams, roughly the weight of a can of soup. Its mother, sunken deep into a metabolic trance, is barely conscious. She does not eat. She does not drink. She breathes perhaps once every 45 seconds. And yet, she must nurse. Her body, burning through its last reserves of fat, produces milk rich enough to fuel 2, sometimes 3, helpless creatures through the most hostile months of the year. The odds are already tilted. In some populations, up to 30% of cubs do not survive their first year. Not from predators alone, but from starvation, from cold, from the simple arithmetic of a world that offers nothing freely. If the mother did not eat enough the previous autumn, the milk thins. The cubs weaken. They make small sounds in the dark that no one hears. And when spring finally comes, when the den breaks open and pale light floods in for the first time, the cub steps out not into safety, but into a world full of things that want to kill it. The forest does not celebrate its arrival. It simply waits. The mother bear is one of the most dedicated teachers in the animal kingdom. She has to be. Everything her cubs fail to learn will kill them. She teaches them to dig, to overturn logs heavier than themselves, to scrape through frozen soil for insects, roots, anything remotely edible. She teaches them to read the forest signals, the smell of a male bear, the distant crack of a branch, the particular silence that means danger. She herds them up trees when she senses a threat, pressing her nose to their flanks and pushing urgently, silently, until they are high enough. Then she stands below, alone, putting herself between her young and whatever is coming. Male bears kill cubs. It is not rare, it is regular. A large male, detecting the scent of another bear's offspring, will pursue the mother for hours, not to eat the cubs necessarily, but to trigger her back into estrus. To remove a rival's genetic legacy from the gene pool, the mother must outrun him. She must outmaneuver an animal that may weigh twice what she does. And she must do this while keeping 2 or 3 cubs, animals that trip, fall behind, make noise alive. The cubs watch all of this. They absorb the fear. They learn that even their mother, the most powerful thing in their world, is not safe. That knowledge, branded into their earliest memories, is the real curriculum of a brown bear's education. A brown bear's day is, at its core, a race against time. Not time in the abstract time measured in calories. Every hour it is awake, its body is burning through reserves it cannot easily replace. So it eats, constantly, desperately, without pause. In summer, a bear might spend 20 hours a day foraging, not hunting, not feasting foraging, digging through meadows for tubers, stripping berry bushes bare, wading through streams for hours, hoping to intercept a salmon that may or may not come. When the salmon run is good, a bear can eat 30 fish in a day. When it is poor, as it increasingly is, as climate disruptions alter river temperatures and salmon populations collapse, the bear walks away from the water, having consumed almost nothing. This period, called hyperphagia, is not a feast. It is a biological emergency. The bear's body is demanding more than the landscape can deliver. It eats until its paws crack. It moves through territory, spanning hundreds of square kilometers, not because it is powerful and free, but because it has no choice. Stop moving, and there is not enough food. Stop eating, and the winter math doesn't work. The bear is not living. It is calculating, desperately, whether it will survive the next 4 months of darkness and cold. There are moments in a brown bear's life that exist at the absolute threshold of survival. Moments that, if they go wrong by the smallest margin, end everything. In Yellowstone, researchers have documented bears dying of starvation in early spring, emerging from dens in bodies too depleted to function, collapsing within days of their first steps into the thawed world. They simply ran out of time. In Alaska and Kamchatka, bears that fail to secure enough salmon before the rivers freeze face a winter with insufficient fat reserves. They enter torpor, but their heartbeat doesn't slow far enough. Their muscles consume themselves. Some wake midwinter, confused and starving, only to find a world still buried in snow, offering nothing. They die in that confusion, between seasons. And then there are the humans. Across Europe, bears are hit by vehicles on roads that cut through corridors they have used for centuries. In parts of Romania and the Carpathians, habitat fragmentation means bears must cross farmland, villages, highways, just to reach food. Many are shot legally, illegally, it does not matter to a dead bear. In parts of Central Asia and China, brown bears are killed for their bile, their paws, their fur. Their deaths are quiet and unreported and constant. A bear that somehow avoids all of this, the starvation, the rival males, the hunters, the roads, still faces a body that begins to fail around age 20. Its teeth wear down. It can no longer crunch through bone or dig with the efficiency it once had. It grows slower, thinner, and the wilderness, which was never kind, becomes even less forgiving. The brown bear is, without exaggeration, one of the most important animals in the ecosystems it inhabits. It is a keystone species, and the world repays it with nothing. When a brown bear drags a salmon carcass into the forest, it becomes a delivery system for marine nutrients, nitrogen, and phosphorus that feed the trees, the soil, the insects, the birds. The forests of the Pacific Northwest, some of the most ancient and towering on Earth, grew in part from the bodies of fish that bears brought inland. The bear does not know this. It does not receive anything for this service. It simply eats and drags and sleeps, and the forest grows taller around it. Bears disperse seeds across vast distances. They create disturbances in forest floors that allow new plants to take hold. They regulate prey populations, create feeding opportunities for ravens, eagles, foxes, wolves. An ecosystem without bears is measurably poorer, less biodiverse, less resilient, more brittle. And yet, the rivers are changing. The forests are shrinking. The berry yields fluctuate with unpredictable springs. The salmon runs collapse and recover and collapse again. The bear does all of this work, this enormous, exhausting ecological labor, and receives in return a world that is slowly becoming less able to sustain it. The irony is not subtle. The animal that holds the ecosystem together is being quietly dismantled by the same ecosystem's collapse. The global population of brown bears is estimated at around 200,000. That number sounds stable. It is not. Populations in Western Europe, once ranging from Portugal to Scandinavia, have been reduced to tiny, isolated fragments. In the Cantabrian Mountains of Spain, fewer than 300 bears cling to existence. In the Italian Alps, numbers hover in the low dozens. These populations are not merely small. They are functionally disconnected from each other, which means their gene pools are narrowing, their adaptability is shrinking, and inbreeding is already reshaping the health of individual animals. Some conservationists argue for intervention, rewilding programs, wildlife corridors, legal protections. These have shown real, if fragile, results. Bear populations in parts of Scandinavia and the Carpathians have recovered modestly, but recovery is not the same as security. A species that has lost 50% of its historic range does not bounce back easily. Every recovered bear is one drought, one illegal hunt, one unusually cold spring away from being lost again. Others argue that nature should be left to its own calculus, that human interference, even well-meaning interference, creates dependencies and complications that ultimately serve human sentiment more than animal welfare. That bears managed to exist for hundreds of thousands of years without us, and that what they need now, most of all, is for us to simply stop. Both arguments have weight. Neither offers comfort. The brown bear exists at the intersection of humanity's guilt and humanity's indifference, and that is an uncomfortable place to build a future. Brown bears once ranged across an enormous arc of the northern hemisphere, from the Atlas Mountains of North Africa to the forests of Japan, from the Iberian Peninsula to the eastern edge of Siberia, from northern Canada to the American Southwest. That range is now a ghost of itself. Today, the largest concentrations exist in Russia, Canada, and Alaska, places where human density is still low enough that bears have not yet been entirely pushed out. In Kamchatka, bears move through volcanic tundra in numbers that seem almost primordial until you remember that even this remote peninsula is not untouched. Poaching, climate-driven disruptions to salmon cycles, and the slow creep of industrial development are already registering. In Scandinavia, bears occupy boreal forests that look like sanctuary on a map, but are threaded through with logging roads, reindeer herding territories, and the occasional village that greets a wandering bear with fear and a rifle. In the Rocky Mountains of North America, bears negotiate a landscape carved into fragments by highways, ski resorts, and expanding suburbs, where a bear that learns to approach human food is labeled a problem bear and destroyed, as though the problem is the bears. Everywhere the brown bear lives, the home it inhabits is contracting. The buffer zones are disappearing. The corridors are closing. The bear's range, already a fraction of what it was, continues to shrink inward, as though the world itself is slowly withdrawing the offer of a place to exist. There is a bear somewhere right now in Siberia, in Alaska, in the Carpathians, walking through failing light at the edge of autumn, covering ground it has covered 100 times before, nose down, searching, not for glory, not for dominance, for enough calories to survive what is coming. That is the entire ambition of its existence. It does not know it is a symbol. It does not know that humans have painted it on coats of arms, named sports teams after it, built stuffed replicas of it for children to clutch in the dark. It does not know that the same species that has romanticized its image has also reduced its world to a shrinking set of broken corridors and hungry seasons. The brown bear has survived ice ages. It has outlasted empires. It has endured climates so severe they erased entire species around it. And still it is here, still searching, still walking, still burning through the last of itself before the snow arrives. We call it a survivor. We mean it as a compliment. But survival, for the brown bear, has never been a triumph. It has always been a cost paid again and again, in hunger and cold and loss, in cubs that don't make it to spring, in old bears that slow down one last time and do not get up. The forest does not mourn them. The river does not notice. The world moves on, a little quieter, a little emptier, and the bear that spent every waking moment of its life simply trying to exist leaves behind nothing but a silence that no one knows to listen for.